She closed the curtains, let every piece fall quietly, and smiled like she owned. The ninth ship hummed beneath her boots as Lily walked through the narrow corridors of the trade vessel Dancing Star, and the metal walls pressed close around, like the ribs of some sleeping giant, and she liked it that way because tight spaces meant fewer surprises, and fewer surprises meant she could keep breath. 3 months ago, she had been working double shifts at a supply depot on Mars Station. 7 sorting cargo containers and dodging her supervisor's wandering eyes, and now she was here, somewhere in the Outer Rim territories, with aliens who looked at her like she was made of glass or gold or something equally break-a-brath, were tall, with skin that shimmered between deep purple and midnight blue, depending on the light, and their eyes were too large and too bright, and when they spoke, their voices carried harmonics that made her teeth ache, and Captain Vea was the worst of them all, because she watched Lily like a puzzle that refused to solve itselfly, had signed the contract without reading the fine print, because the pay was triple what she made dirtside, and because staying on Mars meant running into Derek again, and Derek meant bruises hidden under long sleeves, and apologies that meant nothing. By morning, Vrathan needed human consultants. They said because humanity had recently joined the galactic community and human perspectives were valuable. And Rare and Lily suspected that was diplomatic speak for we need someone to do the jobs we consider beneath us. But she took the job anyway because running away was easier when you had a destinationer. Quarters were small, but clean with a sleeping pod that adjusted to her body temperature, and a viewing screen that showed the stars sliding past like diamonds on black silk, and she liked the silence here because silence meant safety, and safety was something she had forgotten the taste off Captain Vea found her in the observation deck 3 days into the voyage, and the Vrathan moved with a grace that made Lily think of dancers or predators or Bothu. Our troubled human Lilith, words came out soft and layered with sounds that Lily could not quite hear, and she shrugged because admitting weakness to an alien seemed like a bad tactical choice. Adjusting, she said, and kept her eyes on the stars, because eye contact with Vrathan was considered either an invitation or a challenge. And she wanted Nithavea sat down beside her, and the captain was close, enough that Lily could smell something like ozone and cinnamon, and the alien's presence felt warm in a way that made her skin prickly. Her heart rate has been elevated since you came aboard, and you do not sleep well. And when you think no one is watching you, touch your left arm as though checking for Damigellali's hand froze halfway to her sleeve, and she forced it back down to her lapim finvaya, made a sound that might have been laughter or disagreement. The men say that phrase when they mean its opposite, and your species is terrible at deception. Observation deck was empty except for them, and the stars beyond the glass burned cold and distant, and Lily wondered if running to space had been far enough, or if she needed to go further still. "What do you want?" she asked, and tried to keep her voice level. Vea tilted her head in that bird-like way Vrathan had when they were thinking you want to understand why a human, with your intelligence and skill, would sign a hazard contract for a trade route known for pirate activity best. I needed to leave. Vea's eyes did that thing where they shifted from violet to gold and back again. What were you leavingly stood up fast enough that her chair scraped against the floor. It's not part of my job description shit. Left before Vea could respond, and her heart was hammering against her ribs, like it wanted out, and she made it back to her quarters before her hands started shaking. Vrathan did not ask personal questions again, but Vea watched her, and Lily felt that attention like heat on her skin, with weeks into the voyage. Ilan Dalu, they hit their first pirate scan, and the alarms that screamed through the ship made Lily's stomach droppled, crude to defensive. Stationsley Station was in communications, which meant sitting in a chair surrounded by screens. While the ship's shields flickered and held against weapons fire, and her job was to monitor distress frequencies and coordinate with any nearby vessels and keep her breathing steady while the hull shook. Vea was on the bridge, and her voice came through clear and calm on the command. "Channel hold position and do not return fire unless they breach shields, and Lily, we need you to send the standard merchant distress." Kalili's fingers flew across the controls, and she sent out the signal. It would hopefully bring help, or at least witnesses, and the pirates were using small, fast ships that darted around. The dancing star-like insects and their weapons scored bright lines across the shields. Vrath and crew moved with practiced efficiency, and no one panicked, and Lily realized that this was probably routine for them, and she tried to match their calm, even as her pulse race head pirate ships broke off after 20 minutes, when a patrol vessel responded to the distress call, and Vea's voice came through again. Stand down from defensive stations, and damage report to my console. Sagged in her chair and let out a breath she had been holding, and when she checked her hands, they were steady, and she felt something like pride flicker in her chest. Via found her in the mess hall an hour. Latorio did well. Human Lily looked up from her ration pack. You just sent a signal. You did not freeze, and you did not panic, and many beings do both their first time under fire. Lading pushed food around her plate. It wasn't my first time with. Words slipped out before she could stop them, and Vea sat down across from her, and the captain's eyes were soft in a way that made Lily's throat title meander. Maybe it was the adrenaline still singing in her veins, or maybe it was the way Vea asked, like she actually wanted to know, but Lily found herself. Takindarak used to get angry, and when he got angry things got broken, and sometimes those things were me. And I thought if I stayed, quiet enough or small enough, he would stop. But he never did, and one day I realized that staying meant dying, and dying scared me more than leaving. Vea listened without interrupting, and her face did that thing Vrathan faces did when they were processing strong emotion, where their skin patterns shifted and swirled. Her mate harmed yucks, she said firmly, and the word tasted like freedom, and no one stopped him. Lee laughed, and it came out bitter. We would they? And it was just domestic stuff, and he was charming to everyone else, and I was the girl who probably deserved it. Hizea's hands curled into fists. On the table, Mong, my people, such behavior is exile-worthy and to harm. Once chosen is to mark oneself as brokenly met her eyes, and found herself unable to look away. Well, humans are different. I guess no, Vea said softly, and her voice carried weight. And you are not different, and you did not deserve harm in leaving. Was brave. Something cracked open in Lily's chest, and she felt tears prick her eyes, and she looked away fast. Hanks. She whispered things. Voyage continued, and Lily found herself spending more time with Via, and the captain taught her Vrathan hand signals and shared her own rations, which tasted like mint and starlight, and in return, Lily taught Via about human music and showed her pictures of Earth that made the aliens' eyes go wide with wonder. 3 weeks in, they hit another pirate attack, and this time the ships were bigger and better armed, and the Dancing Star's shields dropped to 40%, and the first Valavia's voice came through the command channel tight. With Focusly, I need you to reroute power from non-central systems to Shieldsley's. Hands moved across the controls, and she pulled power from everything they could spare, and the shields climbed back to 60% in Heldone of the pirate. Ships broke formation and made a run at their docking bay, and Vea's voice came through. Again, brace for boarding, and all crew arm yourselves. Grabbed the plasma pistol from the emergency locker. Cider station, and her hands shook, but she checked the charge and flicked off the safety and waiteth. Pirates breached through the cargo bay, and the Vrathan security team engaged them immediately, and Lily heard weapons fire echo through the corridors, and her training said stay at your station, but every instinct said move. She left her station and made her way toward the cargo bay, because sitting still while people fought felt wrong, and she rounded a corner and found a pirate aiming a weapon at Vea's. Beclay did not think, and she raised her pistol and fired, and the shot took the pirate in the shoulder, and he went down hard. Vea spun and saw Lily in her eyes. Why do you should not be? Harily kept her weapon up neither. Should Hethy's security team cleared the remaining pirates, and the boarding party retreated, and the pirate ships jumped away. When patrol vessels arrived, and Lily stood in the corridor with her hands shaking, and Vea watching. Here, you saved my life. Lee lowered her weapon. You saved mine first by offering me this job. Vea stepped closer, and her hand came up to touch Lily's face, and the contact was warm and electric. Our remarkable human. Lily felt something shift in her chest, like a door opening. Just Lily, she said, and call me just Lilith. Captains. Quarters were larger than Lily expected, with soft lighting and walls covered in star charts and personal items, and Vea had invited her for what the Vrathan called a bonding meal. which was apparently significantly sat on a low cushioned bench, and accepted a cup of something warm and sweet. "This is nice," she said. Vea sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost to shadow.